Good afternoon, students. We are continuing with objectives of communication, and we are saying warning as the primary objective of communication.
मैम
Warning,
साइड में दिख रही है,
sorry,
पीपीटी नहीं दिख रहा है मैम।
नहीं दिख रहा है यहाँ पे तो
नहीं
मुझे
मैम।
दिखा रहा है। एक मिनट वापस से मैं करती हूँ।
हाँ मैम अभी दिख रहा है।
दिख रहा है? वेरी गुड।
हाँ
So, we are continuing with objectives of communication, and we are seeing warning as an objective of communication. So, warning means forceful means of communication. It is necessary to give warning to the undisciplined, unaccountable, and unproductive or destructive individuals. It can be in oral form, such as announcement and reprimand, or it can be in written form, like memo, show cause, notice. So, here are the examples. Show cause notice, it is a letter. Then you have warning in the form of non-verbal communication, it is the poster, and you have other signs and symbols of warning. Should I change the slide?
यस मैम।
Yes, ma'am.
All of you, please join on time, because otherwise it interrupts the lecture. I cannot continue with the lecture if anybody wants to enter the class. Next, we are having persuasion. Now see this particular cartoon. Trying to convince people just doesn't work. The second person says, sure, it does. The first person says, see. Now, persuasion means you convince the other person. You change the outlook, the opinion of the other person in your favor. So, it is an attempt to influence one's belief, attitude, intention, motivation, and behavior. The best example of persuasion is advertising. The other one is sales and marketing. The next one is political campaign. The other one is propaganda. Persuasive strategies. How you change the outlook of the other person. First one, you appeal to reason. That is logic, rhetoric, and scientific proof. The other one is appeal to emotion, imagination, and seduction. If you want to understand persuasion, take example of any particular advertisement that you like. The intention of advertisement is to make the viewer buy the product. And for that purpose, 4-stage formula is used, that is AIDA. A, attention. I, interest. D, desire. And A, action. An advertisement is the viewer that they must buy the product. For that purpose, it can appeal to reason, that is give scientific proof, or it can appeal to emotion. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you noting down the points?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Should I change?
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we are having motivation. Now, we are doing the secondary objectives of communication. With motivation, we start with the secondary types, secondary objectives. So, motivation is the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. It involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate behavior. It is the driving force behind human actions. Without motivation, people will not do anything. It is the description of why a person does something. For example, why you are attending this particular lecture, or why you want to watch a particular movie, or why you want to eat a particular type of food. Any answer to the question why is an example of motivation. There are monetary motivators and there are non-monetary motivators such as recognition and reward. Now we come to Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization.
मैम स्लाइड परसुएशन का ही दिखा रहा है.
परसुएशन क्या दिखा रहा है? तुमको ये स्लाइड बिल्कुल नहीं दिखाई दिया?
नो मैम. यस मैम, अभी विजिबल.
अभी आया?
यस मैम, मोटिवेशन का भी आया.
मोटिवेशन का अभी आया. सबको दिखाई दे रहा है स्लाइड मोटिवेशन?
Yes, ma'am.
यस मैम.
ओके, इतने जो पॉइंट्स है वो नोट डाउन करो. Motivation is the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. It involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate behavior. It is the driving force behind human actions. It describes why a person does something. There are two types of motivators: monetary, that is related to money, and non-monetary, like reward and recognition. Now we come to Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization. He says that there are 5 stages of motivation. These 5 stages he arranged in a form of a pyramid. At the lowest level, you have physiological needs. Now, physiological needs means food, water, shelter. Primary needs, without which you cannot survive. Once your physical needs are satisfied, you move to the second level, that is safety needs. To survive, one needs to be safe from bad weather, wild animals, and anti-social elements. In other words, you require clothing and shelter. In physiological needs, you require food and water. In safety needs, you require clothing and shelter. Once the first two needs are satisfied, then a human being moves to the third level, that is love and belongingness. In other words, now a person wants family. Once the third level is also satisfied, a person moves to the next level, that is esteem needs. It means that a person does a particular thing not for money, not for love, but to gain respect in the eyes of others. And the last stage at the top is self-actualization. At this particular level, all other needs of a person are satisfied, and now whatever a person does is for one's own satisfaction. Is it clear to you? All the 5 stages?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Can you see the new slide? Raising the morale?
No, ma'am. Motivation ही है.
मोटिवेशन ही है, ठीक है, एक मिनट. अब दिखाई दे रहा है?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So the next one is raising the morale. There are 2 words. One is moral, M-O-R-A-L, and the other one is morale, M-O-R-A-L-E. So you should know the difference in pronunciation. This is morale. So what is the morale? It is zeal for action. Motivation means you want to do something, but motivation is not enough. You need to have enthusiasm for doing a particular action, and that is morale. It is the collective attitude of the employees towards each other, towards their employer, and towards their work. So here there are 3 things involved. Number 1, employer. Number 2, employees. And number 3, the job. Advantages of morale. Organization functions smoothly. Profits and sales are increased. Employees have trust in their superiors. Employees give full cooperation to the organization. Disadvantages of morale. If the morale is missing, what happens? Low morale indicates employees' lack of trust in the management. Employees waste time in spreading rumors. Profits and sales are affected. Organization lacks goodwill. Please note down all the points. Morale, zeal for action, collective attitude of the employees towards each other, towards their employer, and towards their work. Advantages of morale, smooth functioning of the organization, increased profit and sale, trust in the superiors, and full cooperation of the employees. Disadvantages of morale, wasting time in spreading rumors, low profit and sales, lack of goodwill. Can you see the next slide?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, now we will see high morale. Committed and cheerful staff. Good interpersonal communication. Supporting employees. Willingness to take new idea. High productivity. In contrast to high morale, we have low morale. Dejected individuals, jealousy, rivalry, and poor communication among staff, complaining staff, unwillingness to learn new techniques, and as a result, low productivity. So here you have compare and contrast between high morale and low morale. Please note down the points in 2 columns. This can come as compare and contrast high morale and low morale. It can be asked as a question. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Measures for raising the morale. scope for freedom and creativity. The employee should be given freedom to explore new facets of the work. Encouragement. If an employee comes with a new idea, he should be encouraged to implement that. Periodic review and revision of remuneration. This is very important. This is related to salary. If an employee is paid well, he will work well. Next, total quality management. It includes several aspects. If an employee is not performing well, there can be a number of factors. So you have to identify the problem and then you have to remove that particular problem. Next, good system of communication. To understand the problem, to provide solution to that particular problem, to implement that particular solution. At every stage, you require good system of communication. Next, no favoritism. There should not be given more importance to one person at the expense of other people. You should be fair in your dealings with all the people. Please note down these points. Can you see the new slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So here we finish with the objectives of communication and we come to the summary part. So there are primary objectives of communication and there are secondary objectives of communication. Under primary objectives, you have information, advice, order and instruction, education, warning, and warning. Under secondary objectives, you have persuasion, motivation, and raising the morale. Once again, we will go through all the points. A type of revision. What is today's topic? Objectives of communication. What is an objective? It is specific, measurable action. An objective must be SMART, that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Under objectives of communication, you have two types, primary objectives and secondary objectives. Under primary objectives, you have information, advice, order and instruction, education, and warning. Under secondary objectives, you have persuasion, motivation, and raising the morale. This particular topic can be asked for 20 marks. Discuss the objectives of communication in detail. A 20 marks question where you will have to cover all the points, or it can be asked for 10 marks each. It can be either discuss in detail primary objectives of communication for 10 marks. Discuss in detail secondary objectives of communication for 10 marks. Can you see the next slide information?
No मैम, ऑब्जेक्टिव ही दिखा.
ये वाला स्लाइड?
यस मैम.
ये स्लाइड दिखा.
मैम अभी फिर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ही आए.
तो अभी तो ऑब्जेक्टिव से ऊपर है ना. अभी मैं नेक्स्ट पे जा रही हूँ. अभी नेक्स्ट दिखाई दे रहा है?
यस मैम.
ओके. इसमें भी पूरा तुमको स्लाइड पूरा दिखाई दे रहा है ना? तो मैं स्लाइड
यस मैम.
जा रही हूँ, यहाँ से ही बता रही हूँ. So under information you have 6 types: procedure, process, principle, concept, structure and fact. When you are writing the answer in the exam, you have to give example of each one. For example, what is the process? I had discussed the process of communication with you with the diagram. Do you remember that? So for each information, each type, you have to give an example. What is the fact?
मैम प्रोसीजर के लिए एफसी प्रोजेक्ट का प्रेजेंटेशन हो सकता है.
Procedure, how you do it? Procedure का एग्जाम्पल क्या है पता है? जो तुम लैब में एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हो ना,
यस मैम.
रेसिपी, जो रेसिपी बुक में दिया हुआ रहता है,
यस मैम. उसका
एग्जाम्पल एक है रेसिपी, और दूसरा जो है वो है तुम लैब में जो एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हो स्टेप बाय स्टेप 1 2 3 4. प्रोसेस का एग्जाम्पल है जो मैंने तुमको डायग्राम दिखाया था कम्युनिकेशन का, सेंडर, रिसीवर, मैसेज, फीड, एनकोडिंग, डिकोडिंग, वो वाला. So for each one you have to give your own example. Then we come to advice. So it means information plus opinion. In the last lecture, I had discussed in detail the difference between order, counseling, advice, and suggestion. To take an example of lockdown. When there is lockdown, there is curfew, it is an order. You cannot step outside your home. That is order. When doctors are giving the medicines to COVID positive patients, it is counseling. When somebody is quarantined, it is an advice. What to do and what not to do. And when lay people tell you what to do to improve your immunity, homemade remedies, it is suggestion. Next, we come to order and instruction. These are the guidelines, do's and don'ts. It must answer 6 questions: what, why, when, where, who, and how. Instructions must be complete, concise, clear, coherent, concrete, correct, and courteous. These are 7 C's of communication, which you have to by heart. Which are those? Complete, concise, clear, coherent, concrete, correct, and courteous. Again, when you are writing an exam, you have to give example of each type. Give an example of advice. Give an example of order and instruction. Next is education. Here we have knowledge, instructions, plus we have enriching mental faculties, improving skills, and building character through training. There are different types of training: classroom teaching, lectures, seminars, short courses, conferences, educational tours, film shows, etc. According to Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels of education. Starting with the innermost circle, first stage is remembering, second, understanding, third, applying, fourth, analyzing, fifth, evaluating, and sixth, creating. Again, you can give example of education. Next, warning. Here you have examples. In the oral form, you have announcement and reprimand. In the written form, you have memo and show cause notice. Then we have persuasion. It is an attempt to influence one's belief, attitude, intention, motivation, and behavior. Its examples are advertising, sales and marketing, political campaign, and propaganda. Again, you can give example of each one. Take any advertisement. For example, washing powder. So how they convince you to buy a particular brand of washing powder. That example you have to give. Always remember, when you are writing answer in the exam, you have to give examples. Next, we have motivation. It is an answer to why you do a particular thing. A motivation can be monetary or non-monetary. And according to Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization, there are 5 stages of motivation. This particular theory you have already studied in semester 2 of foundation course.
मैम पीपीटी में दिख रहा है
नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है?
नहीं मैम
अभी?
अभी भी नहीं मैम
ओके, तुमने ऑलरेडी पहले तो देख लिया ना, लेकिन
हाँ मैम
आ रहा है मुझे पता नहीं। अच्छा, ये यहाँ से वापस से रिज्यूम करना पड़ रहा है। कुछ है ना, टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है आज। अभी दिखाई दे रहा है?
हाँ मैम
Yes, ma'am.
Then we come to the raising the morale. Morale is zeal for action. There are advantages and disadvantages. Then difference between high morale and low morale. High morale, committed and cheerful staff. Low morale, dejected staff. High morale, good interpersonal communication. Low morale, jealousy, rivalry, and poor communication. High morale, supporting employees. Low morale, complaining staff. High morale, willingness to take new ideas. Low morale, unwillingness to learn new techniques. High morale, high productivity. Low morale, low productivity. And the last point, measures for raising the morale. The employees should be given freedom. They should be encouraged to implement new techniques. They should also be given monetary and non-monetary motivation. Management should ensure total quality management. There should be a good system of communication and no favoritism. So here we finish with the second topic, that is objectives of communication. Okay, so I hope this particular topic is clear to all.
यस मैम
Yes, ma'am.
In your attendance form, you are going to write topic objectives of communication.
ओके मैम
Morale, don't write motivation or persuasion, just objectives of communication. Then
मैम
it where you are going to get the attendance link on Google Classroom.
ओके मैम
It is the same link. So I'm not going to send another link. Okay? If you
Okay,
have
ma'am.
questions, you can ask. Any doubts?
No, ma'am, no doubt.
No doubts?
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, so we end today's lecture over here. Don't forget to fill the attendance form, and please don't make any mistakes. If you
Okay,
commit,
ma'am.
either you have to fill the form again or your attendance will not be counted. Okay, so now we stop over here.
Okay, thanks, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.